Hey MiniWarGamers, welcome to episode 9 of the Machine Shop. What makes a great gaming store? Wow, so somebody asked me that in one of the comments the other day. I think for Machine Shop number 8 actually. Now that I'm filming these closer to on a weekly basis, I can actually look at topic suggestions and think about them and pick one if it kind of piques my interest and then go in there. So for those of you who never watched the Machine Shop before, what this show is about is I pick a topic, typically discuss it, usually in 2 parts. Give some of my views and opinions on that topic, which you guys can take or leave, because obviously they're just my views and opinions. And then usually talk a bit about what's going on in my hobby on the painting table, and I've just started doing little army features too on some of my painted armies. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about what makes a great game shop. So I have 5 words that answer that question. One that stays in business. All right, so what do I mean by one that stays in business? Well, it's pretty hard to misinterpret what I just said. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that though. And the reason I say one that stays in business, and it sounds like a flippant answer, is that most of what makes a hobby store great can also be what keeps it in business. I am not trying to give small business advice in this video. That'll cost you. You don't get that for free. But what I will do is talk about some of the things you want to think about. And some of the easy part stuff, maybe for you if you're thinking about owning a gaming store, would be things like knowing what products to stock. Now, the reason that might be easy is because you might be a hobbyist. Now, that's a double-edged sword, because the easy stuff, if you're a hobbyist, might come real easy. And the hard stuff might actually be really, really hard. So what I mean by what products to stock? Well, you need products that you can sell. Your gaming store won't stay in business if you can't sell products. Your customers need products that they want to buy. So that's one of the things that makes a great gaming store, is when you walk in there and either A, you find exactly what you're looking for right away, or B, you find some cool stuff you never knew existed, and maybe you start a new hobby, maybe you see some models that you want to buy that you didn't know were around, or maybe you just find something new. One of my favorite gaming stores to go into is always Game Castle in San Jose. It's owned by the airport. I used to fly into San Jose on business all the time. And whether I was either going back for my flight or coming in, I would always drop by Game Castle just to go walk around for the most part, because they have a ton of stuff. And for me, as a miniature wargamer, they have a ton of accessories. One of the things that Game Castle in San Jose stocked that I thought was awesome was tons of aftermarket bases, scenic material, accessory packs, widgets by weird online companies like Cybor, and Dragonforge bases, and just all this stuff by these sort of aftermarket component producers that can make your models look cool. Now, they also had tons of different miniature games, and I bought tons of miniatures there as well. But one of the reasons I was always going in was to see what local sort of, well, not necessarily local, but what small cottage industry stuff I could see on their shelves. So when I say knowing what products to stock, somebody that works in that business had to know that would be the kind of thing that would capture a guy like my interest, and would be why I've shelled out probably in the last 4 years a couple $1,000 on random stuff in that shop, just walking in and walking out. It was very, very rare that I left San Jose that I didn't have some products. Now, that can, like I said, be a double-edged sword though, because you might not know anything about gaming, but you want to run a gaming store. Or you might not know anything about the products. So for instance, I'm a war gamer. I'm also kind of a board gamer, not really a card gamer, and I'm kind of a video gamer. So if I want to run a gaming store, I wouldn't really know what card games to stock. I know I should stock Magic, because that's a license to print money, and that I understand how that card game is designed to make money. But other card games, I have no idea. I have no idea what I could stock. And I have no idea what would get my customers excited, or get you excited, you know, coming into a store. So knowing what products then to have in your store is super important, and that's the thing that makes a great gaming store, is having a great selection of products. Now, the second thing is activity. So some kind of organized something going on in the store. Now, that's going to keep you in business because, one, you've picked the right activity to do. You've picked activity that goes along with a product that you sell. And 2, it's going to be great for your customers, and your customers are going to be super excited about it because they can come in and do stuff. Now, this comment is only probably going to be relevant to people in North America. There are some big gaming stores with big gaming spaces in Europe and elsewhere in the world. But in my travels, one of the things that I've noticed is the wargaming in a store mentality of I play where I pay is a very North American thing. That's not something typically that I've seen in England. In England, there's a huge club network of people in wargaming clubs that do share space where you can go and wargame and not be in a store. Like that's huge, and there's tons of them around. That is a very, very rare thing in North America. So all that population in North America, all these wargamers, and they're very caught up in the idea that they can only play their miniature games, or they you know, that miniature games should be played in a store. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that one, but for a great gaming store to make its customers happy and be a great gaming store with organized play, and the way that's going to keep them in business is they pick the right organized play. So it's sad to say for certain things, like, you know, there are great dead miniature games that I love a lot, but if I can't buy something in that store, I don't think that that store is going to stay in business and be a very great gaming store if all it does is support stuff that they don't make any money from or don't sell. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'd love it to be the case, but that's really a big North American problem, not a rest of the world problem, because they tend to play in clubs. And so they can play dead miniature games or miniature games that are smaller, they don't sell or don't make any money off, because they don't care. They're not selling them. It's just a club. They can play whatever they want. Knowing what products you must always have in stock. This is huge. So this is another easy part, is if you are, again, a person who is a consumer of these products, if you have a great gaming store and you are a person that also uses some of the products that you sell, you probably know the things that you absolutely can't run out of. But if I walk into a gaming store looking for black paint, because I've run out of black paint or white paint or something, meat and potatoes like glue or paintbrushes, I want them to be there. Like, that's what makes a great gaming store to me, is that when I need something, I go in and it's there, and there's lots of it. I don't like walking into a store where there's no products. One of my huge frustrations with War Machine lately is none of the local stores here have anything on the shelf. Like, I have gone into the local gaming stores in the Niagara region probably a dozen times in the last year since I started playing War Machine again, trying to find X or Y thing. They never have it in stock. They always want a special order for me. And I totally understand that. Like, that's not like, it's a huge range to have all of and have in your store all the time. But I wanted some pretty meat and potato stuff. Like, I wanted like some templates or some of the basic, you know, Warjack chassis stuff, or a battle group box or something like that, or a rule book. That should be in stock. And the same thing goes for X or Y paint. If I want X or Y paint or glue or flock or something, I want to be able to go and get that stuff. I was really frustrated with the local Michaels. It's a craft store here in Canada and the US, because they didn't have my brand of Tester's dull coat sealer. And actually Steve found me some. But I walked in, I'm like in this huge department craft store, and I go over to the Tester's rack and there's nothing in there. And I was like, ooh, I was really frustrated. So that's another thing to me that makes a great gaming store, because as a consumer, I want them to always have products that are essential in stock. Like, if I see a game being played in your store and I've never played it, I've never seen it before, and I get interested in it, I want to be able to buy the rulebook for that game. Like, I don't care what day it is, I don't care what time it is, I want to be able to buy the rulebook for that game. And you want me to be able to buy the rulebook for that game if you're in that gaming store, because that means I might go in and buy more miniatures for it. I might get excited about it. So there are certain products that you really, really need to make a decision about. And here's the last bit. And this is probably going to get me some hate. All right. But if you are a subscriber to the pay where you play thing, if you're a North American and one of your things is you play in your local gaming store, there's a decision that you have to make if it's a great gaming store versus discounting or offering MSRP. So selling stuff at full price or offering a discount. Two of the most successful gaming stores I've seen in the area, they do discount a very small amount. They'll discount about 10% off everything in the store. And they offer an additional discount through a membership program. I'm kind of okay with that, because I'm paying for the membership program. Not anyone can walk off the street and get that discount. And that person can still do things like sales or whatever. And they're rewarding my loyalty through buying this membership and being a person that plays in that store by giving me additional X% off. So for instance, here at MiniWarGaming, our Vault members get, if they are Gold Vault members, an additional 20% off at Black Knight Games. That means a 30% discount on all products when you walk in there. That's pretty huge. 30% is fairly internet standard for products. If you go to Miniature Market or any of those big online discounters, that's a fairly standard discount. The reason I say this is a tricky thing to do is because I understand the basic mechanics of commerce. If I'm getting a 40% margin or 45% margin on the products that I'm buying, so I'm paying 55% of MSRP to get it from a distributor or get it from a person that sells it, I have to sell 3 times as many at a discount as I would if I just sold one at MSRP. So you get into a really shaky downward slope thing if you're just discounting 24/7, 365. Where you are not making the money you could, right? Where if you are getting a 45% MSRP or 55%, so you're buying at 55% of what retail is, it's really, really hard to survive on 15% margin. Like it's really hard. And if a great gaming store is one that's still in business, don't go asking. If they do some kind of deal or they do some kind of like local sign up and buy a membership and you can be a super member of whatever our club is, that I'm kind of okay with, because you're still paying in basically to get that discount, and you have to buy a bunch of stuff to make that discount worthwhile for what you've paid up front. You'd have to buy the volume that guy would need to make those discounts. But discounting versus MSRP, when I walk into a shop that's got super deep discounts, I guarantee, like I immediately get the feeling I'm not gonna be able to walk in that shop in a year. Like I'm just not going to be able to, because that's such a slippery slope and it's such an expectation that you build in your customers that it's terrible. And it's why I firmly believe that internet discounting is damaging the hobbies sort of like in general. You don't typically see discounts on any accessory products. It's only on main company products, and that's a whole thing that I could get into that might give me a bunch of hate, might be kind of controversial. I hope you don't hate on me too badly for having said that, but I don't believe in a full-time always getting everything for nothing, because it costs people to do that. So there it is. So there's the easy part. Those are my things that I, as a customer, would want out of a great gaming store. I would want to see them probably charging full price. I know it sounds weird, but I'd want them to be doing that because it tells me they're going to be there. They're confident enough in their ability to sell products. They're going to be there in a year. I want them to always have the products that I want in stock. So what are, like, essential products, things like rulebooks, things like core paints, cans of primer, glue, flock, paintbrushes, just hobby essentials. I don't want to walk in there and you never have that stuff in stock, because I won't come back. I want to see organized play for stuff that, again, you sell. If I see a whole bunch of organized play that's not making this guy any money, again, I get the feeling like he's not going to be here in a year. So I don't really invest a lot of time or energy in going into that gaming store. And I want to see products that are interesting. I want the guy running the store to know what products to stock. Because if you don't have a great selection of products that are going to be interesting to me, then I'm not going to buy from you. Then I will go online. And I'll pay full price to buy interesting products online. I pay full price all the time to buy products that are weird and from the far corners of the earth, because I think they're awesome and cool. I just bought a bunch more Brother Vinny Fallout miniatures from this awesome sculptor that does like all these Fallout Power Armor guys and Brotherhood Steel miniatures and stuff like that. Anyway, it's awesome. So there it is. There's part 1. Let's look at part 2, which is the hard part, probably. All right, so the hard part of what I wanted at a great gaming store. I want great staff. Honestly, I don't want to know the gaming store owner, because I want the gaming store owner in a gaming store to be worried about his business. One of the #1 reasons that I've seen a gaming store fail is because a guy who is really excited about X or Y industry or product tried to open a gaming store. And he tried to support it on that one product. One of the things that I've seen really commonly made as mistakes, for instance, is a guy trying to open a wargaming store that only sells wargaming stuff, doesn't sell cards, doesn't sell Magic. You're not going to survive. It just doesn't turn over fast enough, those products. You have to sell cards, you have to sell RPGs, you have to sell something else that turns over, comics, whatever. That's why these hybrid stores exist, comic book card stores, or card wargaming stores, or video game card stores. You have to be able to know what products stay in your store to stay alive. And I would rather the owner is all concerned about that, and that he's got great staff that totally understand the products that they sell. So again, I'll use a comparison to a local gaming store. Black Knight Games in Hamilton, it's a local gaming store to us here in MiniWarGaming. We have kind of a partnership program with them. They have some staff who are super knowledgeable about individual parts of their product line. So for instance, their War Machine product line, they have Tim Banky, who is a privacy press judge and is super knowledgeable about it. And that's fantastic. People can go to that guy for whatever they need to know about War Machine and Hordes and that selection of products. And and that's a priority for him, right, in that store. I think that's great. So if I go into a gaming store, one of the things I want staff that know about what they're selling. I don't want to have a question about something and I get a dead-eyed look and go, I don't know. Even if the guy I'm talking to doesn't know, that's fine. I want there to be someone there who knows something about the product on the wall. Even if it is the owner and he only knows a little bit about it, having knowledgeable staff, I really think that's important. And that's, again, something that I think is going to make that store be there in 5 years, is because if you've got an owner or a manager who can run the back end of the store, the ones and zeros that actually make a store run, and you've got great frontline staff that know about products, hey, you are halfway there. I want that out of a great gaming store. I want staff that are excited about the things that are there that they're selling, because then I can talk to them about it. I get charged up by going into a gaming store. So talking to those guys about those products, I think that's really important, and they should be able to charge me up and get me to buy something, because then you'll be here again in 5 years. Here's another thing. I want a gaming store. I think a great gaming store doesn't listen to its customers. I know, this sounds ridiculous, but customers don't typically understand what it takes for a gaming store to stay in business. And they will try and defend their corner of that community sort of in defense of all others. So for instance, if you walk into a gaming store, it's very easy to see the wargamers complaining about the card gamers. They're taking up too much space, their backpacks are everywhere, they smell, or vice versa. The card gamers complain about the wargamers. Their miniatures are everywhere, this is blah, blah, blah. And both of them will go to the staff or the manager or whoever and say, hey, this is, a problem, you need to fix this, you need to get wargaming out of this store, you need to get card gaming out of this store. So when I say staff that don't listen to their customers, I mean staff that don't think like their customers. I want a gaming store that has a space for everything and everything in its space, and there's a plan for those customers where they don't get angry. So for instance, you've got a dedicated space for playing card games, or you've got a dedicated space for playing war games, or you have staff that even just know how to diffuse that kind of situation if the stuff's kind of everywhere. I think that's super important, because otherwise it turns into weird, cliquey store politics. And I hate that. I want the staff to be in charge of the store, to have a plan, and the customers are following that plan and having a good time. That's just me. And what else do I want from that store? And I think this is hard. I'd like there to be a community somehow around that store of customers, the people who are excited about X or Y thing on the wall. I don't really like going into gaming stores where there's a group of 3 guys that are always in that gaming store sitting around complaining. I don't get a buzz out of that. I think that's bad news bears. So the same 3 guys playing with the same 3 broken armies. And when I mean broken, I mean like physically, like just pieces, legs on a base, moving them around. Or the same 3 guys playing with the same 3 magic decks. That bums me out. I like to see guys talking about stuff and excited, and for there to be some sense of community and not necessarily just slouching around. I think that makes a great gaming store, is if you have people doing stuff that's productive, so proactive. And that can be as simple as getting people involved. So having people harness running events. If you have like a minor game system that you sell in your gaming store and you got one guy who's really passionate about it and he has no one to play, recruiting that guy to go and run some demos. You give him some space, you give him some stuff to build and paint, and say, hey, you stand up front of here on gaming nights and I'll try and wrangle players for you while I'm working, and you show them how to play, because I know you're super excited about that. That's how you build a community, and I'd love to see that happening in a gaming store. I've talked about this in Dead Miniature Games. I talked about this in starting a new miniature game. But if you're a great gaming store, one of the things that you do is you harness the talent in your community to help you be an even greater gaming store. And you get tons of volunteer help that way. People are super excited when they get more out of the hobby they have. So, if you want to be a great gaming store, or you are a great gaming store, I'd probably see that happening. I'd see local community members running painting contests or painting classes, or events and activities or demos for smaller games that they're really excited about that the store owner doesn't have time for, maybe, or doesn't have the staff for. And I think that's a really positive thing. I think that makes a great gaming store when you see that happening, because people are pitching in. You know what I mean? It's a very, very sort of healthy environment if a club is growing out of your gaming store, because what happens is they become self-sufficient and you can continue to run your business, And again, you'll be there in, you know, the next 365 days, and I won't just have to find another place to go buy my pots at Citadel Paint. And so the last thing I'd really like to see is, I think a great gaming store has an owner who's a businessman, not necessarily a hobbyist. Again, controversial, but I think it's way more important for that guy to understand the products he's selling than it is necessarily the rules for a game. And he needs to hire guys to do that. That gives me a lot of confidence and a lot of faith that that place is going to be there again in 5 years. Now, he might have a super huge interest in one of the products he sells, but he doesn't have to be everything for everybody. Like, I think that's really dangerous. And you see a lot of one-man shops when they first start off, where the guy's really trying hard to be that. And that's a huge amount of work, and that distracts you from being the business person you need to be to keep your store there and keep it in business. So again, there's the hard part. The things that I would like to see in any gaming store, I think, that make a great gaming store. Great staff that know about the products that are on the wall. A store that's being run by the employees, not by the customers, right? So the employees have a plan and people are excited in doing stuff, as opposed to lots of people slouching around, complaining or being unhappy. A community forming, I think that's really exciting. You see people who are just customers, not necessarily part of it, actively doing stuff in the store, promoting the products they're excited about, and you see the store actually doing that. And then finally, a guy who owns and operates that store like it's a business, because I want it to be there in a year. I don't like having to hop between gaming stores. If he's hired great staff and they're knowledgeable with the products, then they're going to be great staff and be knowledgeable with the products, as opposed to just being guys who lay about, right, and don't make any money. And the guy who owns the business can focus on owning the business, doing the purchasing, getting the product and getting on the wall, making sure inventory is right, making sure he's not being robbed, making sure the ones and zeros that actually keep the lights on in a place like that are happening, because that's a big job. And if you own your own business, it's just you doing that. So that's it. That's my talk about what makes a great gaming store. It's probably a little bit more technical than you guys were expecting, but I spent 13 years helping people run gaming stores, and I run a consulting business for people with small businesses. So yeah, there's my free advice to you internets. If you want more advice, contact me through my website. I'm more than happy to talk to people about small business stuff. But the long and the short of it is, you need to understand the industry you're in, the products you're selling, have great staff, keep your eye on the ball, and don't turn into one of your customers. Because if you're your best customer, you're not running a very good business. All right, so here we have episode 9 on the painting table. You guys seem to enjoy the handheld walkthrough of some of what I've been working on, so I'm gonna do that again. This week I've got, I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff for the N3 launch. It's December right now, which means N3 is coming. I'm just finished filming a review of the rulebook, because we were lucky enough to get some looks into that, and I've been going through Operation Ice Storm with the cooler, Owen, who many of you know. So I've been painting models for that. I'm going to do some mission stuff too, and actually go through, and you guys can check out all of the missions in the new rulebook. And so to do that, because unfortunately the only army Owen has, because Matt's away on Pat leave and he's the guy I'm filming with, is Pano, which is my army. So I had to paint another army really fast. So you're going to see the progress shots of that. My Ariadne army for Infinity, which was actually the first army I ever bought, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Some last minute painting stuff for the League, the War Machine League. I got some Menoth stuff painted, and then some bits and pieces that I painted for Operation Ice Storm. So let's take a look at that stuff right now. All right, so first things first. Here's my Ariadne army that I started a day ago. So in various stages of completion, back here, just airbrushed with a base tone and a highlight are my Kazakhs. So I got a Kazakh FO, Fort Observer. He's actually the old lieutenant model before they wanted you to hide your lieutenants. So he's calling it an airstrike or whatever on his little radio there. These are the old original Kazakhs from the out of production line of Ariadne miniatures, because this was literally the first product for Infinity I ever bought, and I never gotten around to painting it. There's 3 Kazakhs with rifles, and then in the almost painted pile of not quite done but almost done, I got my Dog Soldier. It's the original Dog Soldier miniature there. Now what happens is if he takes a wound, he turns into this guy. So what these guys are is they've been infected by the antipode virus. The Ariadne army, they're all colonists. They're the first colonists that left Earth's solar system and got lost. And there's a race of sentient, like, wolf things on the planet that can infect you with their DNA. So this guy right here is the son of a woman who got bit by an antipode during the wars against them when they first colonized the planet. And so if he gets shot up, he gets mad and turns into this guy. So he turns into a giant werewolf. They're basically a way to shoehorn werewolves into the game, which I don't mind because these guys can super jump and do all kinds of cool things. I got 2 Tang Hunters, one with a adhesive launcher on the left there, and a guy with an AP machine gun on the right. The cool thing about the Ariadne army, they don't get to really keep up with the high technology it's in most of the Infinity armies. They make up for it by basically being the dudes from Avatar. So they crash land on this planet, they colonize this planet that has what's called Tusium on it, or Tesium. And Tesium's like adamantium, unobtainium, whatever super dense, hard mineral. The way they can keep up with this is that their basic body armor is this super lightweight, almost indestructible material that you can just make a bulletproof vest out of, and it stops like modern conventional firearms. And also all their rounds are made out of it. So it's the most expensive mineral in like the galaxy, but because their planet is just covered in it, these guys can empty out clips and clips of like the most expensive ammunition ever made. So they have like AP machine guns and AP rifles that just basically fire Sabo silver bullets through the enemy. I got a Paracommando. She's the original Paracommando there with a knife and a rifle. She's almost done. Uxie McNeil, it's the resculpt. Again, almost done with her boarding shotgun. And then of my stuff who is finished, I have my Kazakh Spetsnaz. He's got a, what is that? That's a sniper rifle? Yeah, AP sniper rifle. Or maybe just a sniper rifle. Actually, I think it might be just a normal sniper rifle. I have a veteran Kazakh right here with his AP rifle. I did them all in like a Soviet green with some red piping because these are all from the Kazakh factions. These are all the Cossacks. I have 3 scouts. 2, this is actually the resculpt of him. This is the original Ariadne scout with an AP sniper rifle. And then the one on the right is the exact same thing with an AP sniper rifle. And then in the middle, I've got an Ojontnik and E-Mauler. So she can drop some anti-electronic EM stuff. A little pylon there is a thing she can deploy to neutralize heavy infantry and tags and remotes and hackers and stuff. And she's got an Ojontnik, which is just a big game rifle. So it's like a cool short-range sniper rifle. So it's a pretty dirty army because everything's camo tokens and they all get to, or half of them get to infiltrate. I think the only thing that isn't camouflaged or doesn't have mimetism at least is my dog soldier, and he just flies across rooftops, so he's pretty cool. So anyway, you'll see more of them in the bout reps, but there's my Ariadne. Alright, next up, Harby, the Harbinger, bane of my existence. This model sat in a box for I don't know how long, and I finally, it was in one of my league lists, so I put her together. I lost one of the chains, so the third like bearer guy got thrown in the garbage. Then I found the chain and decided to leave him in the garbage. And this miniature was the source of a great deal of office amusement because I must have dropped her like 3 times when I was painting her. And bits would just break off her, and she just threw me into a rage. I could not get paint on this miniature fast enough to get it out of my life. It's a lot of white, which, as most people know, is not a super huge amount of fun to paint. And it's just a fiddly model that broke all the time. So, yay, you're out of my life, Harby. Please don't break again, and I never want to paint you again. I've got my Reclaimer from a Mammoth Army here. He's a little, like, firebrandy dude. He can make your warjacks have focus and stuff, so I painted him as well. He's in the same list as Harby. So there's the Menoth stuff, or the Menoth stuff that I've been working on. Alright, and here's the last of the Infinity stuff I've been working on for the Operation Ice Storm videos I've been shooting. I got some Interventors with their fast pandas, possibly the cutest Infinity miniatures ever. So these guys are hackers from the Nomad Army, and they have what are called fast pandas. They can deploy these guys, they're repeaters. So think of them like, if you play War Machine, they're like arc nodes. You can shoot hacking through them. You can hack anything with 8 inches of you. These guys, anywhere on the table, can have, they extend your range basically. So you can hack with them anywhere on the table within 8 inches of them. So you can drop them around corners and stuff, and they basically run out and then stay there for the rest of the game. So I got to use those, and Owen got to use the Jodam. This is my Jodam, painted up for, again, the Ice Storm missions, the final mission 6, Beyond Ice Storm. You get to see this guy in action, and he is a hero and a beast. The only problem with him is, man, his parts fit together fiddly, and I put that like arm with the machine gun back on like 3 times. I actually put it back on again this morning. Before I started filming this, because I pulled him out of the case and it just snapped right off. And it's pinned, like with like a 1/2-inch pin. So I don't know why he's all busted. Anyway, he was airbrushed for a base coat. I airbrushed all these plates and then the body and stuff separately. And then I painted him and then sponged on some battle damage with some Dryad bark, Citadel Dryad bark. It's a nice meat and potatoes paint job, but I'm pretty happy with him. So there it is, on the painting table. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Machine Shop, where we talked about what makes a great gaming store, in my opinion. We looked at some of my armies. I'm going to do another army profile this time on my Necrons. So if you click the link below, you can go and check them out in the vault. This is an army I painted for Armies on Parade 2012, where the project was originally going to be an Empire army, and that like broke me. I just couldn't finish them, and I whipped up this Necron army in about 3 weeks as something to do instead. So the display board that I did for them was really unimpressive. I didn't include it, but the actual army here, I've expanded a little bit since then, but yeah, it's about a probably 2,000 point Necron army that I painted for Armies on Parade. So I hope you enjoy it. Click the link below and you can join us in the vault. If you're not already a vault member, if you do want to see my army, you can sign up for a free 7-day trial just by clicking the link. It takes about 30 seconds to do, and that'll let you see any of my army profiles. They're all going to be in the vault because they're bonus content. And then half of pretty much every other show I do will be situated in there. If after 7 days you like it, you can support us here at MiniWarGaming, becoming a full-time vault member. That lets me make these videos and pays my paycheck. So we super appreciate all those that do become vault members. We'll see you then. Until the next machine shop, I'm Ash, and I'll see ya. Happy wargaming.